We all remember what it was like to be 17, to be weird and awkward in the hallways of high school, to have the love of our life have no idea who we are, and of course to be bit by a spider which gives us superhuman powers, if only to be used to fight off a giant lizard in the streets of New York, if only to avenge the mysterious disappearance of our parents. Well, maybe not the last one. Unless, of course, if you're Peter Parker. But I'm not. I'm Jake Hamilton here in New York City, getting ready to talk with the cast of The Amazing Spider-Man and find out why with great powers comes great responsibility. Get ready. This is Jake's Takes.
This life is not an easy one. I've made enemies. Powerful enemies. I've put those I love in danger. But the one thing that has haunted me my entire life is finding the truth about my parents.
So I kind of have to almost cry to you for a second, because Spider-Man for me was always that thing growing, because I was the awkward kid in school. The girl that I loved had no idea who I was, and that kind of, I know, right? I know.
I'm with you. I'm here.
One of those moments.
I feel you.
Right, and I've read a lot of interviews with you saying the same thing. Whenever someone tells you that, whenever someone says Spider-Man was that person for me, what does that tell you about that person?
It tells me that that we're gonna get on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that we can relate on a very deep level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the wonderful thing about the character, is that he enables. Stan Lee created a community because of a suppressed kid who was an underdog who was blessed with the physical strength that matched his inner strength.
Mm-hmm.
And the orphan kid, and the kid that knew right from wrong, the kid that had that heroic impulse before he was ever a hero, and the kid that wanted to always stand up for the underdog but never had the power to. So yeah, it's
nice to be able to connect to you on.
It's beautiful,
right?
It's a beautiful
thing.
thing.
It's a sweet moment.
And the Comic-Con thing was that as well. When I went to Comic-Con, I knew that everyone in that room was the same, and I knew that I should have been down in that audience looking at the panel, not on the panel. So that's why I wanted to do that. And it was important to me, and I think it was a beautiful moment for me, and I think it was a beautiful moment to share with all those people in that room. And that's what he does. He creates a community, and there's so much more we can do with that outside of this movie, so hopefully I'll come up with some ideas to keep that community alive, right, in a positive way.
Well, I want to talk about that Comic-Con moment, because that moment just melted my heart, man.
Oh,
It was so cool.
Nice.
And there was a line that you said there that just broke my heart, where I think you said, like, there were moments in life when I needed Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And thinking about your life, if you could pick one moment in which you most needed him,
mm-hmm.
which moment comes to mind?
Well, I was bullied in primary school, so between the ages of 5 and 12, I was bullied by one kid. This kid. I'm not going to mention his name because that's.
It's okay. I'd love to mention his name.
I know. There's no need for that. You have to stop the hate. You can't do the review. You can't keep the hate. Hate doesn't do anything. Hate breeds hate. So. I wanted to say his name more than anything.
Right. What do you think he's doing right now when he's seeing all of this?
I wish him well. I
don't.
Hope it's okay. No, but a bully is a bully because he's been bullied. You know what I mean? Like, we learn all this stuff from somewhere. You're not born bad.
Right.
And he just didn't have the right supervision. He didn't. Anyway, we haven't got to get into that.
We're getting like emotional. We're getting all teary-eyed over here.
But he. So yeah, between those ages was tough. So every time that would happen, I would get lost in Spider-Man. I'd find hope in that. I'd find hope in this kid who felt like me.
Right.
And it's like any great piece of literature, any great piece of art reaches out a hand when you read it, watch it, listen to it. Any great song reaches out a hand, grabs yours, and says, "You're not alone, bud." And
yeah.
Stan Lee has given such a huge gift to us.
Of course. Well, giving the wrap, I did want to ask really quick.
Yeah.
They've been talking about the photo of you as 3 in the Spider-Man outfit that Mark Webb got. Do you happen to have that photo on you by any chance?
On me? No, I don't have it on me. I wish I did.
Because I haven't seen it yet. Everyone keeps talking about it.
I'm sure that when the time is right, we'll.
Okay. If you could tell that kid how it would turn out, how would you tell him, and what do you think his reaction would be? How all this would turn out?
Oh man, I'd be like, hey, one day, you're gonna feel a lot of pressure. Enjoy it now. Enjoy the fantasy now, because when it becomes a reality, the nature of it will change. And and you know, you're gonna work hard and you're gonna be very scared, but you'll get through it.
Damn it, man, you've earned it. Dude,
Oh,
it's
man.
always an honor. Thank you so much for having a great interview.
You're so great.
Thank you so much. I
you.
appreciate it. Have a great day.
You're a wanted man, Peter Parker.
You don't believe what the police are saying, do you?
My dad has 500 officers looking for you.
500? That seems a bit excessive. You know, if you're gonna steal cars, don't dress like a car thief. You found my weakness. It's small knives. Who are you?
So, Emma, always good to see you.
Good to see you.
I think Peter Parker is inherently the best kind of person to be a superhero because he's the person that you would least expect to be a superhero.
Right.
So thinking about all the great co-stars you've worked with in your career, which one would most likely be a superhero because they're the last person you would ever think would ever be a superhero?
But I don't want to be like he could never be a superhero, but he is Jesse Eisenberg.
And so you quickly turn that.
Well, you just wouldn't expect Jesse to be a superhero, but I could see. But he's so freaking intelligent and genius that he would probably be the best superhero of them all.
That's a compliment.
Well, I mean, it is, but I just, you feel immediately like
It's not a
just to
put
say
down.
he doesn't seem like a superhero.
Right. To me, as a Spider-Man comic book geek, the difference between Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy was that, to me, Mary Jane fell in love with Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy fell in love with Peter Parker. To me, that was always the perfect difference. Thinking about differences, what's the difference between the Emma Stone that we've all fallen in love with on screen and the
Okay.
Emma Stone that's sitting in front of me right now?
A lot.
Oh, yeah? So what are some examples?
Well, I don't know. I mean, which parts on screen?
And it just the general gist of who you think people think you are.
From public Albert. Well, real me is very. I'm very anxious.
Really?
Yeah, I can get pretty anxious.
Really?
Yeah, so that doesn't maybe always come across.
Right, because I always feel a confidence coming out of you, so that's interesting.
It's not that I don't have that element too. It's just that I sometimes overthink things a little bit too much.
Well, obviously, I mean, if you do that and you put it into your performance, obviously it pays off.
Well,
That's why you're a trailblazer.
Thanks, buddy. Pound it.
That's me and Emma go back.
There we go.
We go way back.
There we go.
Obviously, I don't do personal questions, but obviously you and Andrew have great chemistry on screen together. And as someone who is able to look at movies from different perspectives because of the perspectives you have, what is a telltale sign of two people having chemistry, and what's a telltale sign of two people not having chemistry?
Well, I don't think that there is anything that can be pinned down about chemistry because that's just what it is. It's like something in the ether. It's nothing that you can really define. So, on screen, you can definitely tell if people have chemistry or not. I think because you can feel it as a person, as an audience member. But I mean, anything telltale? When people avoid eye contact all the time,
Right.
that's usually bad.
Have you
mark
ever
of
had
chemistry.
that? Have you ever had that an actor try to do like the look off camera thing?
You know what, that's actually not true because sometimes the chemistry is so palpable that you feel like you can't look at the person.
Really?
Yeah, there's no telltale sign. It's just a feeling.
Gotcha. Well done. Awesome. Really quick, they're giving me the wrap. A comic book geek, obviously, the death of Gwen Stacy is a big deal in the history of Spider-Man.
Right.
Hypothetically, down the road in the sequels, if Mark Webb is going to kill you off,
Yes.
what kind of death would you like to have?
Oh,
Fall
like
off a
Gwen's death.
how
how she
from the
dies.
bridge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I think it needs to stay true to the comic book for sure.
It'd be so heartbreaking.
Sure.
I don't want to see you die.
Oh, thanks, Jake.
They're giving me the wrap. It's always an honor to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on everything.
Thanks
You deserve
very
everything
much.
in the world.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Parker. What does your father do, Peter?
But I never really knew my father. My parents left when I was very young.
Peter, someday you'll understand.
Did you tell the boy about his father?
Dr. Connors. I'm Richard Parker's son.
If you want the truth about your parents, Peter, come and get it.
I have to tell you, what I found most fascinating about what you did with this character is that you played it as if he weren't a villain, which I thought was incredible. What were some elements that you had to avoid to keep him from being just that cliche, stereotypical comic book villain?
Well, the easy choice would be to play like this crazy mad scientist from the beginning, but he isn't. You know, he's a man a very, very intelligent man who spent most of his life developing and researching, his passion, which is cross-species genetics, in particular the field of reptilia, reptiles being a species that can regrow their limbs. He's a one-armed guy, so he obviously has a vested interest in that area. So I didn't want to play a nutty professor. That's actually a very tangible science. But what I wanted to kind of develop or explore was a man who's kind of driven mad by his passion, and by the constraints of a corporation, which he is very much the victim of here. Oscorp being the corporation who want to test this science on human beings unbeknown to them, and Dr. Curtis Connors is morally repelled by that idea and chooses to become his own lab rat,
right, and
with dire consequences.
Right, exactly. And one of the things that he wants to do is to create a world without weakness, which I thought was fascinating. If you were going to create that and eliminate some of your weaknesses, what would be the first of your weaknesses that you'd like to cut out?
Greed.
Oh yeah,
I guess, and I think that's a weakness we all suffer from in the Western world, because, most of the world is thirsty, hungry, and uneducated.
Right, and if we get the wrong type of bottled water, we're upset. I totally understand that. There are a lot of secrets in the film that Dr. Connors is privileged to that as an audience we are not. Who is the shadowy man in the darkness? What is the secret to Parker's parents? Are you, as an actor, are you told what those secrets are, or do you just have to go with it?
No, I kind of know what they are.
Really?
But I ain't going to be telling you.
Please? I'm listening, my friend.
No. So that again was a great thing to play, throughout, as particularly in the scenes with Peter. There's so much I want to tell him, but there's so much I can't at this moment, So Connors is a man. There's a lot of secrets there. Some of which are revealed in this film.
I feel like there's so much you want to tell me right now, but you just can't do it.
No.
All the knowledge I want to know is right there. It's the most frustrating thing in the world.
Yeah.
But I have to say, what I love most, and I think what audiences get most out of you adding this third dimension, is that we get into a character's head that we wouldn't normally. We don't often get to see what makes a villain tick. What is a cinematic character out there that you're fascinated with that we didn't really get to know that character very well, that you'd like to get to know them a little bit better and add that third dimension just to see who they are, just to see what makes them tick?
Bambi.
Bambi. What do you think is the villain side of Bambi?
I think he's angry about his mum, or her mum.
There's a
we
darkness
don't see that. We don't see that Bambi's darkness. Right. I think Lassie's a rabid dog.
Cujo. I love it. Well, an honor to talk with you again, my friend.
Thank you
so
very
much for a fun interview.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Ready to play God?
There's been a biological attack on New York City.
What I've been doing, if you want to just have some fun with me, I'm
Yes,
going to
sir.
introduce you. I'm going to announce you. I've taken this responsibility away from her because she doesn't realize how important it is. Despite she just graduated from Loyola. Never mind that. But I've just been having fun with people. If you were playing in the U.S. Open next week, you'd tee off on Thursday, the first day, and
Yes,
a guy would announce you along with Tiger and all the great players.
Yes,
and
sir.
so they can't use a microphone because you'd mess up other people out there. So they yell it out from the first tee.
Right.
And everybody on television hears it, and just the people around the first tee hear it. But it's such fun to hear them do this. So
I'm
you're
looking
Jake
forward to
Hamilton.
this. This is like the highlight of my day.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the first tee from KRIV Fox TV Houston, Mr. Jake Hamilton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the best introduction I've ever gotten. They're gonna play that at my funeral. That's a highlight for me.
Oh, no.
That's fantastic. And obviously, the Uncle Ben character is very much like a father to Peter Parker, and he teaches him so many important lessons. Obviously, one of the most important being about responsibility. What do you feel is one of the most important lessons you've taught your sons?
Well, I would hope that it would be to trust living an honest life, you know, and you can't say those things to any one of your children at any time ever, but you try to live an example, and so that they know where you come from, what you stand for, and who you really are, that you become yourself by living an honest life. And so I don't think there's anything more important that Ben teaches Peter than that, you know, is to just be honest and take responsibility for what you've done and what you shouldn't have done.
Right.
You know, fess up. You know.
And then there's that great moment where you say, like, man up, like, you know, this is your responsibility, like, you need to be a man. And I thought that phrase, that hits you right. As a guy, when you hear that phrase, be a man, that's tough.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's his job. You know, it's like my experience as a father and a grandfather is that, you know, we have a real important responsibility to young people, and particularly in that time in their lives. You know, that's during the terrible period of adolescence, which is governed in large measure by peer pressure. You know, young people, you know, are hampered by each other's image of them, each other. You know, and for good or ill. You know, so the most brave thing that a youngster can do is step out of that group and be courageous, be heroic. From something they believe in their heart. And very often they draw a lot of criticism and a lot of heat from their fellows, you know. But it's the most important thing to do is to learn to follow your own heart. And then you'll be surprised how many people you've influenced without looking over your shoulder. There are more following you than not.
Yes, sir.
But if you're the first to step out, you know, it's a great source of inspiration to the others.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're giving the wrap, but I did want to ask really quick. You have a great moment in the movie where you tell Peter that difficulties essentially are what make us who we are. So I was wondering, what do you think are the most important difficulties you've had to endure to get to essentially where you're at right now?
Well, they would all be in my personal life, you know, where I came to. No, it's serious, you know, but that you asked, it's very important. You know, I just finished a memoir, a father-son memoir with my son Emilio, and we wrote it separately from each other. So I didn't know what his manuscript was until I was reading, you know, near the final galleys, and nor he knew what I was writing about until we got there. And we were astonished at how close we were in our memories, but how close we were in our affection for each other over the 50 years, you know. And one of the most endearing things was that we could trust each other, even when we fell out, you know, that we still knew that the other, you know, loved the other, you know, and was always pulling for him, you know. Even though we were separate or emotionally estranged, we still pulled for each other. We would never leave the other one out there alone. And that I think is so important for me to understand how my misbehavior, you know, as a young father, the effect that had on my children, particularly my drinking. Emilio talked about it in very clear terms, and I had to fess up to it and realize, of course, I've been in the program for 23 years, but when they were growing up, I had a serious problem, and it had a very negative effect on all of them. And Emilio articulated in the book. And I think it's a very good lesson for all fathers to accept, and that is that, you know, you're going to have positive effects on your children as well as negatives, and you have to take the responsibility for both.
Yes, sir.
Equally. And so I would say, you know, that all of these lessons are deeply personal, and yet they're always public in that sense. The way you live your life, you can say a lot of things about how to live, but the way you actually live it, the example you give or fail to give, is the thing that most forms your children.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you for answering that question for me. It's
thank
a
you.
great honor to get to sit across from you.
My
Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you very
just so you know,
much.
The West Wing is one of the most important pieces of TV of all time.
Hey,
It's fantastic.
Peter, secrets have a cost.
I gotta stop him.
Do you think what happened to you, Peter, was an accident? Do you have any idea what you really are?
One of the things I thought was interesting is how many times in the movie you underestimate Peter Parker, how many times you underestimate the goodness of Spider-Man. So I was wondering, in your career, at what point did you ever feel like you were being underestimated?
Oh man, I feel that way all the time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, well, you know, I started out as an actor in school, you know, studying acting and writing, and then I went into stand-up comedy because
there's no acting jobs in Boston at that time in the theater, very few, and they didn't pay. So once I had success with No Cure for Cancer, which was a one-man show developed from stand-up and taken back to the theater, it was hard to convince people that, I want to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, once I started acting, when I said, I'm going to start a production company and start writing, and so I'm sure there's still somebody out there who.
But after something like Rescue Me, after
you'd be surprised.
Really?
You'd be surprised.
Well, we're gonna set them straight. We're gonna set them straight with this interview.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was great was in your office there was a certificate for the Leary Fireman Foundation, I believe.
Firefighters Foundation, yeah.
which is legit. That's something that you're very passionate about. I mean, what
Yes.
what did it mean to you to be able to have that be a part of the movie, to be able to represent that?
Well, it's always a big thing to me. I had a couple friends who got famous. One in show business and one in sports when we were very young. And I saw those guys become very wealthy and very famous. But I also saw them each start a foundation that was connected to a cause that they had. So I learned how fame, one of the bright spots of it is that with your face and your name, you can attract attention to something that you believe in, that you want to raise money for. So, whatever negatives there might be to being famous, one of the positives is that you can say to people, I want to help firefighters.
Right.
And what we try to do is to help fire departments around the country get new equipment and new training facilities because they're financially strapped everywhere in America. And that's one of the first two things that go out the window when a fire department's in financial trouble. And believe me, they're here to save us.
Of course. For people that are interested, is there a way, do you want to give it a shout out?
Yeah, www.larryfirefighters.org, which is, again, you give us the money and we literally, we don't hold on to our money. We spend it almost as soon as we get it.
Right. Well, I definitely wanted to give you the chance to do that because it's an important deal.
Thanks.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the dinner sequence because I've had plenty of awkward meetings with girlfriends' parents. So I was wondering, do you have a story? Do you have an awkward meeting with the parents that maybe didn't go so well?
Well, I can say this. When I first went home to meet my wife's parents, her mother, I don't think that they were too happy when I showed up at the door.
Why?
Well, now, first of all, I had no money. I didn't even have any credit cards. So I was a sketchy character to begin with. And I think they had slightly higher hopes than me, even the door opened. But
obviously it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Now look at you.
Look at me now.
Look at me now, Dad.
That's right.
An honor, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Appreciate it.